shake those brains. This is an AI for Good conference, so my question is, how do you think AI is used in neuroscience? How do you think we can use AI in the brain? I'm going to drive you through how AI can really have a meaningful impact in patients suffering from epilepsy or depression. So let's get started. So how does this song make you feel? Pretty sad, right? This is a sad song. But what about if I tell you it's not a sad song? This is a representation of a brain suffering from depression. When your brain suffers from depression, the right hemisphere has less activity than the left hemisphere. This is called frontal hemispheric asymmetry. And with the sad song, I try to show you how the music in your brain, in this case, is not working right. So at our company, at Neuroelectrics, we are so happy to have developed this now famous cap, lady on the cap. So I'm Anna Maiques because I always wear the cap. So this cap that you see, as you can see, this is wireless, is portable, and any of these electrodes can either record my brain or stimulate my brain. Now that you're listening to me, there are 100 billion neurons in your brain, electrically firing. These sensors help us to understand how your brain is communicated. So why is this relevant? Well, this is relevant because the brain is probably the most complex, the most sophisticated part of our body, and we don't know how it works. So what can we do with AI to help to understand our brain? Well, what we are building in our company is what we call NeuroTwins, digital copies of your brain on the computer, computational neuroscience models of your brain. So when you go on a plane, the pilots, they simulate flights without taking actual planes, right, to train. So why can we not have a brain simulator, a neurotwin, in which we can understand how your brain works? So let's tell you how it works. So let's say you're a patient with epilepsy or depression. What we do first is we gather your information from your brain, we build a computational model, and then with the idea to really personalize. So for example, in this case, I will select like this lady and say, give me your MRI, your imaging of your brain. And with that, I can build a biophysical model of your brain. So the brain from this gentleman and from that lady physically is different. Your scalp, your conductivity, your physical brain is different in every human being. So that's what we model in our NeuroTwin with, of course, the help of AI. And this is a biophysics model of the brain. But it's not only the biophysics model of the brain. For example, in this case, if you suffer from epilepsy, I think this is very interesting. If you suffer from epilepsy, your seizures can come from any of these points, right? So the question is, how it's a seizure focus connected to the rest of the brain? Think of your brains of 100 billion neurons connected like an underground station. This is the metro of Barcelona, but let's say that if you have a seizure that it's starting in the center of the city or in the center of Geneva, it's going to spread around different networks in your brain. But if your brain lesion is located in the airport, maybe the propagation in the brain is different. So AI and NeuroTwins can help us to model what networks are affected in your brain, depending whether you have epilepsy, whether you have depression, or maybe Alzheimer's, right? So once you know where your seizures are coming from and the networks that are affected with this mathematical model, you can start to design, if I excite or inhibit, if I inject electricity in your brain with this famous cap, what effect am I having? In epilepsy, I want to bring down excitation. In Alzheimer's, in depression, I want to bring your neurons up, right? So this is what we achieve with this NeuroTwin model. And at the end, we have a perfect simulation of what's happening in your brain on the computer. And because we have a perfect NeuroTwin of your brain, we can design the best treatment So at the end, we test many assumptions in the computer until we find one that is going to reduce your seizures, until we know how much electricity, with how many electrodes, and in what position we need to inject to reduce your seizures. So this is how AI is now being implemented in our company to provide therapy to patients. But you may ask me, well, Anna, this is really science fiction, having a NeuroTwin, a copy of your brain. The question is, does it work? Well, let me tell you, our first clinical trial with the FDA is in epilepsy. We covered children and adults, and unfortunately, for many that may have been exposed to this, 1/3 of the patients, sorry for that, 1/3 of the patients with epilepsy don't respond to medication, and the alternative is surgery. We need to remove the part of the brain that is creating the seizures or implant something on your brain. So today, in the United States, 97% of these patients don't have a solution. So what we did in Boston and in the United States is tell the neurologist, okay, your patient suffers from epilepsy, send me an MRI, an EEG, and tell me where the focus is coming from and what is the network associated, right? In this case, the seizures are coming from this point in the brain, right? And based on that, we designed with the NeuroTwin, with AI, with these tools that we have, the best solution for that patient. And as you can see in the video, every patient is receiving a different protocol or stimulation based on this NeuroTwin. So every patient receives a different cap, as you can see, with a color code of where positions, what electrode for that particular patient. So with this approach, we managed to reduce seizures almost for 50%. So remember, children and adults, they have seizures every day. They take drugs. They don't respond. The only solution is surgery. And non-invasive, 10 days, 20 minutes every day, we managed to reduce 44%. So this is the beautiful thing of being an entrepreneur. You design a technology, you bring AI, you bring science, and at the end, you're helping patients today. I love this conference because AI for good, to me, this is an example how we can use NeuroTwins and AI for good. So now we are doing a pivotal phase 3 clinical trial in more than 40 hospitals, 150 patients, and we hope to become the first company in the world to go through the FDA with this novel AI-based approach and a new therapy for epilepsy that doesn't exist today. So we are very excited about that, but we will not stop in epilepsy because I'm particularly worried about depression and mental health. I think it's a huge pandemic. I also believe there are not enough good drugs or treatments. And electricity in the brain has been used in mental health for ages. The famous electroshocks that have such a bad press still save millions of lives today. Transcranial magnetic stimulation, it's a sort of electrical stimulation being used for mental health. So what we are doing now, as well at the company, is stimulating patients that suffer from depression. And one of the things that I love is I think we are going to be able to link symptoms of depression with circuits and networks in the brain so that then with my technology, for example, we can really approach those circuitry. So with this, we had our first trial, also with the FDA in depression, 35 patients. And as you can see, we got 63.6 reduction in the MADRS in how the depression patients improve, and 89% compliance. These patients were sent home with this cap for more than a month, and they had to do stimulation on themselves with a caregiver without any physician for 30 days. And the results are spectacular. So we are very, very happy to also, have a future in mental health and be able to help. And as you can see, we are stimulating this area of the brain, the dorsolateral prefrontal area. So to finalize, I'm not doing this alone. I have a phenomenal team. I advocate for diversity in women in tech. I think we need a diverse audience in AI. So a big shout out to the women out there, to diversity out there. I'm also the mother of 4 children. I'm a very successful entrepreneur. I was Goldman Sachs Entrepreneur of the Year. And I love my kids. I think I'm a great mom. So I think that there are ways to change how people view CEOs. And I have more than 40% in my company women, more than 70% in management, and I'm very proud of my team. I couldn't do this. And I can tell you that my whole team is going to be working like hell until we make sure that the music in your brains is not sad, but your brains are healthy and the song is very happy, like this one.
This hit that ice cold, Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls, straight masterpieces. Styling, wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chuck's on with Saint Laurent, gotta kiss myself, I'm so pretty.
I don't know if we have time for questions. Feel free to ask some questions after the dancing. You should have come up and dance with me. I don't like to dance alone. Questions, don't be shy.
Hi, thank you so much for the really interesting presentation. I guess I wanted to understand more, like first, do you use combined MEG, EEG, and MRI for imaging of the brain? Second, can you talk more about the differences between like TMS, implantables like NeuroPace, and how your product is better or worse compared to those products?
Amazing question, thanks so much. So yes, to your point, we ingest MRI, EEG, also connectome data, all sorts of input data to model the brain, physically and electrophysiologically, SEEG, implanted electrodes. And the difference is that TMS is a you can induce motor responses with TMS because it's 300 order of magnitude stronger than what we do. But the problem is that you need to go to a physician office, costs $100,000, and it's capital equipment. Implanted devices are much more accurate, but you also need to open the scalp, and they're very dangerous, right? So I think that TDCS, or our technology, the benefit is that you can take it home and do it day after day. And there is a concept in the brain that says that neurons that fire together stay together. It's linked to plasticity. So the more you stimulate the brain, even if the currents are low, like ours, the brain is kind of rewiring. So that's why we believe that taking this technology home will really help patients heal, because it's like a constant small dosage of electricity day after day, and neurons are kind of rewiring at slow pace. But it's a very novel technology. So for example, I don't know what is going to happen after 1 year of stimulation in depression at home. Our thesis is that patients will keep on improving, but we've never tested it. So we are very excited. What I can say is very safe because it's very mild. It's not painful. You cannot generate a seizure, no adverse events. So it's a very safe technology. Yep. Yes. Yes. So we have our pivotal trial with the FDA is RCT. So all of our trials towards FDA are randomized controlled trials. So let me tell you how it works. When I wear the cap and I inject the current, which is maximum 2 milliamps, you feel like an itching because there is a change in voltage in your brain. So you feel like an itching sensation. So to fake the sham, to all the patients, we give them 15 seconds of stimulation so that everybody has the sensation of the change in power. But then during the 20 minutes of stimulation, the sham arm doesn't have any stimulation. That's how we fake. Yes. Yes, sir. Hi, sir.
Did you try it for OCD?
If I would have, to the funders in the room, if I would have unlimited money, I would be like, like a Medtronic or a pharma company pushing indications. I love OCD because in the United States, transcranial magnet stimulation is approved for OCD. So we are going after the same brain targets. I think it's a great, great indication. I would love to do schizophrenia, but I'm afraid that patients will not receive well wearing a helmet. But OCD is definitely a beautiful indication. But we need the funding to do the trial, it's very expensive. Sorry to say. I also like glioblastoma. I mean, there's so many things that they have never been tested with non-invasive electrical stimulation. Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's, we are doing now a small trial. That's our third indication. And Alzheimer's, I think there is a thesis of gamma stimulation. There are companies like Cognito in Boston that are doing flickering lights to induce gamma in the brain and train oscillations. We can do the same with gamma stimulation electrically, but the studies in Alzheimer's are also very complicated because you have to do all the imaging. So that's our third indication, and we are collecting some data. I think it's a great indication, but it should come at the very early stage, more on MCI and very early stages of Alzheimer's.
Hi there.
Hi.
So my research is in using machine learning to understand the biochemical pathways that would lead to a pathogenesis of Alzheimer's, and so in the area of drug discovery. And so in your clinical studies, I would be curious if you could expand more on the kind of the area where a patient is being managed and treated with drugs for their neurodegeneration and how the device could support that.
So it's a great question. So for us, because this is a novel technology, we don't touch any drugs. Anything we do is on top of the current treatment that the patients have. The interaction of TDCS or transcranial stimulation and drugs hasn't been very well studied. We are working a lot with psychedelics. We believe that the combination of psychedelics and stimulation makes a lot of sense because psychedelics induce plasticity, we do as well. So we are starting to explore with psychedelic companies, how can we combine psychedelics and stimulation? But in the traditional drug world, I think there hasn't been a lot of effort. And we really, all of our trials, we don't touch any meds that the patients are in. It's like adjunctive therapy. Well, follow us. Oh, yes, sorry, sir.
Yeah, Anna, it was a great presentation.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, talked about the depression also in addition to epilepsy. So do you have a methodology to identify that this person is in depression and how much the sensing and imaging will cost for such a patient?
So depression is a very complicated disease, but because it's very heterogeneous, right? So right now we are working with the same population that is refractory to at least 2 or 3 medications, and usually it's sent to TMS or electroshock therapy, right? I think that I believe in a world where AI will let us wear makeup, collect your brain signals, use algorithms to really stratify patients. It's early days, but I think it's happening, that we can really monitor your brain and see, okay, you're a depression patient with anhedonia or with a mood disorder, and then be able to personalize treatment. And the idea for the business model is that this is kind of like a lease. I mean, you don't buy the device. It's like, per use at home, and it should be equivalent, to a drug. So, and then when you're finished with the treatment, you return the device, right? So that's kind of what we have in mind. But reimbursement is, in the United States, one of the biggest challenges that startups we have. Regulatory, the FDA is great. Reimbursement, the payers, I think that's a big obstacle that many of us are fighting to talk to payers and create the best business model. But mental health and depression, I mean, if you have a kid with 12 years old, where are you going to give them a drug? Hell no. I mean, so I think that these technologies that we know are not toxic to the body and they don't have serious side effects could be phenomenal for teenagers and for population that doesn't respond to medication. Well, follow us. Thank you very much. Wish me luck. And thanks for listening.